You wake up tomorrow and do exactly what you did today. You check your phone. You look at messages, news, trends, opinions, and expectations before your feet even touch the floor. It feels normal, but the real question is far stranger. What if most of what feels normal was never chosen by you at all? Every society creates a shared story about what matters, what success looks like, what failure means, who deserves admiration, who deserves attention. And because everyone around you acts as if those stories are obvious truths, they stop looking like stories. They start looking like reality. Psychologists sometimes call this social construction, a simple idea with enormous consequences. Human beings do not merely discover reality. They also create layers of meaning on top of it. Money is one example. A piece of paper has little value by itself. A number on a screen is just data. Yet entire nations organize their lives around those symbols because millions of people agree they matter. The agreement becomes so powerful that it feels as solid as gravity. But gravity works whether you believe in it or not. Money works because enough people believe in it at the same time. Can you see the difference? The strange thing is that human history is filled with these invisible agreements. Borders, titles, status, fashion, reputation. Many of them exist primarily inside human minds. Yet they shape behavior on a massive scale. The historian Yuval Harari argues that humanity's unique advantage comes from the ability to cooperate around shared fictions. A company exists because people collectively agree it exists. A nation exists because people collectively agree it exists. Even a brand can become more powerful than many physical objects because millions of minds are synchronized around the same idea. Without these shared beliefs, large civilizations would struggle to function. But there is a hidden cost. When enough people repeat the same assumption for long enough, questioning it begins to feel uncomfortable, sometimes even dangerous. Imagine a fish asking what water is. The fish cannot easily see the environment that surrounds it. Human beings face a similar problem. You rarely notice the assumptions that define your culture because they are everywhere. They form the background of daily life. You inherit them before you are old enough to evaluate them. You absorb them through parents, schools, media, advertisements, and conversations. Long before you consciously decide what matters, a framework is already waiting for you. This framework quietly tells you what to chase. It tells you what to fear. It tells you how your life should unfold. But where did those instructions come from? The answer often stretches back through centuries of historical accidents, economic systems, cultural traditions, and collective habits. Many of the goals people pursue feel deeply personal. Yet a surprising number were imported from a surrounding environment. The social psychologist Solomon Asch demonstrated how powerful this influence can be. In his famous conformity experiments, participants were asked simple questions with obvious answers. When a group intentionally gave the wrong answer, many participants followed the crowd despite seeing the truth with their own eyes. The lesson was unsettling. Human beings do not merely seek accuracy. They seek belonging. Sometimes belonging wins. Your ancestors evolved in small tribes where exclusion could threaten survival. Being accepted mattered. Being rejected carried real risks. As a result, your brain developed systems that pay extraordinary attention to social signals. Thousands of years later, those systems remain active. The environment changed. The machinery did not. Now imagine those ancient instincts interacting with social media. For most of human history, you compared yourself with a few dozen people. Today you compare yourself with thousands. Celebrities, influencers, entrepreneurs, athletes, strangers. Curated highlights arrive every hour. The comparison never stops. And because everyone else appears to be participating in the same race, the race itself begins to feel natural. But what exactly are people racing toward? Sometimes nobody knows. The goals simply spread because they are visible. The economist Thorstein Veblen described a phenomenon called conspicuous consumption. People often buy things not merely for utility, but for social signaling. The purchase communicates status. The object becomes a message. The message becomes part of identity. Soon entire industries emerge around symbols rather than needs. This does not mean the symbols are fake. It means their power comes from collective perception. A luxury watch tells time, but its social meaning often matters more than its practical function. The same principle appears everywhere. Job titles, follower counts, exclusive memberships, prestigious schools, certain neighborhoods, certain lifestyles. Each carries a story. Each carries a signal. And once enough people believe the signal matters, it gains influence over real behavior. This is where the idea of a reality distortion field becomes interesting. Not because society is an illusion. Society is real. Its effects are real. Its institutions are real. Its consequences are real. The distortion occurs when collective stories become invisible and begin masquerading as objective truths. At that point, people stop asking whether a goal is meaningful. They ask only whether they are winning. The philosopher Eric Fromm noticed something similar. He argued that modern people often become trapped in having rather than being. They accumulate possessions, achievements, and symbols while losing contact with deeper questions about experience, character, and purpose. The result can be a strange emptiness. From the outside, everything appears successful. Inside, something feels missing. Why does this happen? Because external validation and internal fulfillment are not identical. A culture can reward one while neglecting the other. Sometimes entire societies drift toward incentives that generate wealth, visibility, and competition, while unintentionally weakening connection, reflection, and meaning. No individual planned it. The patterns simply emerged. This is one reason certain trends feel unstoppable. People participate because everyone else participates. Everyone else participates because people are participating. The cycle feeds itself. Sociologists call this a feedback loop. Once established, it can shape reality for generations. Consider the work of Robert Cialdini. His research on social proof showed that people often determine correct behavior by observing others. If many people appear to believe something, the belief gains credibility. If many people pursue something, the pursuit gains legitimacy. The crowd becomes evidence. But crowds can be mistaken. History demonstrates this repeatedly. Financial bubbles, mass panics, witch hunts, fads, manias. Entire populations have embraced ideas that later appeared absurd. At the time, those ideas felt obvious. That is the danger. The most powerful assumptions rarely announce themselves as assumptions. They present themselves as common sense. So, how do you recognize a reality distortion field while living inside it? One clue is emotional intensity. When a question triggers immediate outrage, anxiety, or defensiveness, there may be an underlying assumption worth examining. Another clue is universality. If everyone around you treats a belief as unquestionably true, curiosity becomes valuable. Not because the belief must be wrong, but because invisible beliefs deserve inspection. A third clue is comparison. Look across cultures. Look across centuries. Many things that seem natural today would have seemed bizarre in another era. Likewise, practices that once appeared normal can seem incomprehensible now. This perspective reveals something important. Human reality contains layers. There is physical reality. Then there is social reality. Physical reality includes gravity, aging, biology, and physics. Social reality includes money, prestige, trends, norms, and expectations. Both influence your life, but they operate differently. Confusing one for the other creates unnecessary suffering. For example, aging is physical reality. Nobody escapes it. The idea that aging reduces human worth is social reality. Different societies interpret it differently. One is a fact. The other is a story. Recognizing this distinction creates freedom, not total freedom. No human being exists outside society, but greater freedom than before. You can begin choosing which stories deserve your loyalty. You can ask whether a goal genuinely matters to you. You can question inherited assumptions. You can notice when comparison is driving decisions. You can examine whether status and fulfillment are pointing in the same direction. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they are not. This process does not require rejecting society. That would be impossible. Human beings need community. They need cooperation. They need shared meaning. The objective is not escape. The objective is awareness. Awareness changes everything. When you recognize a story as a story, you gain the ability to evaluate it. You become less vulnerable to unconscious influence. You stop confusing popularity with truth. You stop confusing visibility with importance. You stop confusing collective momentum with personal purpose. The world begins to look different. The same institutions remain. The same systems remain. The same expectations remain. But now you can see the machinery. And once you can see the machinery, you can decide how much power it deserves over your life. Tomorrow you may still check your phone. You may still see messages, trends, opinions, and expectations before your feet touch the floor. But now another possibility exists. You might notice that many of those signals are not reality itself. They are interpretations of reality. Stories about reality. Agreements about reality. And the moment you see the difference, the reality distortion field becomes a little less invisible.